We're just going to go quick through vocabulary for chapter 15. So this is page 144, okay? First, nouns. Ohel, tent. Gan, garden or park. And this is the word that's used for the Garden of Eden. So Gan Eden. Gan, garden. Kavod, glory, substance. And this is related to the verb kaved, to be heavy. And in the PL, kibed, to treat with honor. And so kavod is the noun glory or honor. Levav, or sometimes lev, is heart or mind. Okay, so levav is the long version, and then often it will show up just as a short version, lev. Nefesh, spirit or self. This is probably one of the most misunderstood Hebrew words because we often translate it as spirit. We think of it in terms of our own categories, and we distinguish often between kind of body, mind, soul, spirit. But nefesh is actually the Hebrew word that encompasses all of one's being. So that's why I think a better translation is self or being. So if you come across something like, my nefesh cried out to God, you might see it in an English translation as translated, my soul cries out to God. But really, what they're getting at, the writer's getting at, is my whole being. Everything that I am is crying out to God, is calling out to God. So that's a very important word, and it's another kind of clue into the Hebrew mindset. Nefesh, self, personhood, being, sometimes spirit. Let's look at verbs. Harag, to slay. This is a very intense word. This is a military word. Harag. You can kind of feel it. The g in the back is like, ugh. It's a serious word. Harag. Hara, to conceive or to become pregnant. It's a stative verb, so that means that you have to supply the English to be when you translate it. So to be or become pregnant or to conceive. Hara. Yakol. This is a great word. This is a very strange pattern and one that you should just recognize and kind of memorize, that this looks a little different than maybe some of the verbs you're used to. So yakol, a-o instead of a-a. Yakol, to be able. And the imperfect is also follows a different pattern. Okay, also worth mentioning and worth memorizing. So go ahead and circle that. The imperfect is yukal. Very rarely will you see a shurek, a long ua with a mater right there at the beginning like that. Yukal. Okay, so yakol, to be able. He is able. Yukal, he will be able. And oftentimes, the reason that this verb goes with this chapter, with the infinitive, is often that this will be paired with an infinitive. For instance, he will be able to visit. Okay? You need the infinitive to really finish the idea. So often it'll show up with a lamed and then an infinitive. So you call something. You call le something. And then shakav, to lie down or to have sexual relations. A lot of times this is a very intentionally intense word. So it can be simple, to lie down, or it can have more complex meaning. Shakav. And let's look at the particles. Bilti. If you flip back to number 4, I think this showed up somewhere if you read through all of this, but bilti is a very strange word, and it's used to negate an infinitive. It's only used to negate an infinitive, and you'll see that in the box on page 143. under paragraph 4. Only used to negate an infinitive construct. So it means no or not, but it would be used in terms of to not do something, to not eat, to not sit. Lema'an, that's a great word. I like that word. Lema'an, make sure you get the emphasis there right. So that, okay, for the sake of, for the purpose of. It explains, it introduces a purpose clause, as you can see here. So it explains the reason why. So this often will give a statement, and then it'll explain what's behind the statement. So what comes to mind for me is Abraham as he is going into Egypt. The Hebrew says that he told Abimelech that Sarah was his sister, lema'an, because or so that he wouldn't get hurt, basically. So that's the word there, lema'an. And then pen, so that not. Or it can also be translated lest. Okay? It's a little bit older word, but it'll make sense in context, but it introduces a negative purpose clause. So just like lema'an introduces a normal purpose clause, pen introduces a negative purpose clause. So, for instance, obey all the statutes of the Lord. Pen, you be exiled from the land. Okay, lest, so that not. Okay, so it introduces a negative purpose clause. Again, use these tables, these summary tables, on at the end of each chapter to make sure that you kind of get the big picture stuff and totally use them as reference. Some of this stuff you can't memorize all of. Some of this stuff you just have to get familiar with as you work with it. And so don't be afraid of flipping back, even as you work through these exercises, or in the future as you're working through a text. Use reference tools. Use them as help to get to the root of the meaning. Okay? So, hang in there. Good job.